Algebra 2, Unit 3, Day 2 notes, the substitution method. So when you're solving a system of two equations, you frequently can find the x value and the y value. And you're going to solve them that work for both equations in the system. You're going to use one to solve the other. Okay, so here are the steps. First, isolate a variable, then substitute for that variable, solve for the variable, then substitute again. All right, so let's look at solving this system of equations using the substitution method. Now, one thing you want to look for, if you're going to use substitution, you want to look for a variable equals x equals or y equals. That lets you know you are set up perfectly to use substitution method. Okay, very little math to do, so it's a good way to start. So let's go ahead and do this. There are no hard and fast rules about which one to do first, and that probably is what gets confusing. There is not only one way to do this. So you choose. Do you want to substitute y equals 8 minus x, 8x minus 6, excuse me, or do you want to substitute y equals 5x plus 9? Make a decision, make a pattern that you are going to do all the time, all right? Now, I'm going to take the top equation, y equals 8x plus 6, and I'm going to substitute that in for this one. So what that means is, wherever I have a y, I replace the y with 8x minus 6. So let me rewrite the equations. Okay, I've done my substituting. 8x minus 6 equals 5x plus 9. All right, now I'm going to do the math. Do the algebra. All right, I want to keep my x's positive because I just like to do that. So I have 3x minus 6 equals 9. Add 6 to both sides. 3x equals 15. Divide by 3. This is all basic algebra you learned in Algebra 1. X equals 5. All right, so I know x equals 5. I'm going to square that off. That's one answer. So what do? That's nice, x equals 5. Now I take x equals 5 and I put that in to either one of the original equations, keyword original. So I'm going to use different color. I'm going to put it into y equals 8x plus 5. Okay, I replace the x with 5. I'm substituting again. You've learned last couple of years, you've learned to use x as the tool. Once you find it, you use it. That's what we're doing here. Y equals 40 minus 6. Y equals 34. So you have now solved the system of equations. Now, frequently we do this and we turn it into a coordinate point so we can graph it. So I'm even going to include that. So your graph coordinate point would look like this, 5, 34. But for answers, we're happy for either way, okay? This all says the same thing. All right, so now let's try the next one, all right? So let's go with this one. I'm going to use the same colors. Let's see if I can make it neater. So now we're going to solve the system of equations using the substitution method. Again, you choose, find a system, a process that works for you. I'm going to stick with this one. I'm going to use the top one to go into the bottom. Okay, so negative x plus 5 equals 3x minus 7. Love the t. Move my x. 5 equals 4x minus 7. Add 7 to both sides. 12 equals 4x divided by 4. 3 equals x. Remember another rule. It doesn't matter which side your x is on, okay? Don't force your equation to put the x on a certain side. That is not important. What is important is you get a positive variable equaling an integer or a fraction or some sort of number, okay? Just make sure you make your x positive. It does not have to be on the left. It does not have to be on the right. It just has to be there. All right. Replacing. I'm going to go for the easy one. Y equals 3 times 3 minus 7. Y equals 9 minus 7. Y equals 2. Now, how do you know if you're right? You can find out if you're right by substituting, by putting those numbers in an equation and seeing if it makes sense. So let's play. Because I used the y equals 3x minus 7 to solve for my y, I'm going to check this answer. And I'm going to use y equals 2 and 3 equals x in the other equation. 2 equals negative 3 plus 5. Two equals negative 3 plus 5. 2 equals 2. Check. That means we did it right. All right, let's go to the next page. All right, now we have two more systems of equations, and we're going to use substitution to solve them. Now, unfortunately, when we printed them, it didn't separate neatly. So that's one, that's two. All right, so let's look at one. Now, remember what I said earlier in the lesson. I said you're looking for an equation that says x equals or y equals, because that's set up perfectly for substitution. So let's look at one. You have an x equals right there. So you can substitute that equation, 2x minus 5, hold on a second, here we go. You can substitute this equation for x, and we're still going to solve. So let's do that. 2 times 2y minus 5 minus 3y equals negative 6. The purpose of substituting is so you solve for one variable. It doesn't matter whether you go for x first or y first. That is not important. It matters that you have one variable, because you can find the answer for one variable. Then you use that to find the second one. This way, in this problem, solving for x using y was the right way to go, because you had x equals. That was already set up. See, x equals was already set up for you. All right, let's do the math. Distribution, you know this. So you've got 4y minus 10 minus 3y equals negative 6. Draw a T better than I can. Combine like terms, because your 4y and your negative 3y are on the same side. So combine them. You end up with y minus 10 equals negative 6. Add 10 to both sides. Y equals 4. Let's make that neater. Okay? I can't stress enough, don't force the numbers to do what you think they should do. Simply do the math. Let the math speak to you, all right? So I've got y equals 4. Now what do I do with it? I need my x, right? I've got to solve the system. So now I plug my 4 into that first equation. because I'm going to find x. X equals 2 times 4 minus 5. X equals 8 minus 5. X equals 3. Let's make sure we're right, okay? Let's make sure we're right. It's always a good thing to do. I'm going to use the other equation. 2 times 3 minus 3 times 4 equals negative 6. Hope I'm right. 6 minus 12 equals negative 6. Negative 6 equals negative 6. Whew, we did it right. Okay? It's a good way to check. For now, as you're learning, take the extra step to check to make sure your math works. Because if you don't do that, you'll get answers that might be wrong. And if you do that, you're increasing your algebra skills. And it's just a smart move. Let's do number 2. Still doing substitution. Now, we've got a little more work to do on this one. I need a y equals or an x equals, right? I don't have one. So I'm going to look at my equations. And if you look at this equation, negative 2x plus y equals 4, has a single y. So that's the one I'm going to use to substitute, but it's not ready yet. I need to get it in the proper format. It has to be y equals. You've got to do that moving. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to set it up over here. Negative 2x plus y equals 4. I need a y equals, so I'm going to move my 2x to the other side. Y equals 2x plus 4. Ooh, that looks like the graphing equation. So now I can substitute. It's all ready. So now I'm going to take my 2x plus 4 and I'm going to put that in wherever I have a y. So let's use the other equation. Negative 5x plus 2 times 2x plus 4 equals 9. Remember, it's not just 2x plus 4. It's 2 times the y. Gotta let that one sink in. All right. Let's draw a T. Let's do some math. Negative 5x plus 4x plus 8 equals 9. Combine like terms. Negative x plus 8 equals 9. Let's move our 8 to the other side of the equation. Negative x equals 1, but our variable has to be positive. So we have to divide both sides of the equation by negative 1. So x equals negative 1. I have my x. Now let's find my y. I go back up. See my y equals? I'm solving for y now. Y equals 2 times my x plus 4. Y equals negative 2 plus 4. Y equals 2. And again, we are going to check to make sure we did the math correctly. I'm going to use that big equation. Negative 5 times x, which is negative 1, plus 2 times y, which is 2, equals 9. Well, negative 5 times negative 1 is 5, plus 4 equals 9. 9 equals 9. So with substitution, you're looking for, set that up here. You go back up to these steps on the first page. You're going to substitute, you're going to solve. Well, first you're going to isolate, then substitute, then solve, then substitute. Okay? Look at your equations. Look for a single x or a single y. That's what you're looking for. All right, I hope this helps.